Hello and welcome to our English news coming to you from Canal. First, the top stories of the news. A partnership agreement is launched between Algeria and the International Center for Migration Policy Development to better round the migration phenomenon. Morocco in turmoil with clashes in different cities of the country on the verge of collapse given multiple economic, social and political troubles. And the genocidal war goes on in Gaza with new Zionist strikes targeting innocent civilians in the battered Palestine. Welcome back and thanks for joining us. First in our news, Prime Minister Sifi Gharib chaired on Wednesday a cabinet meeting devoted to the 2026 finance draft bill ahead of submitting it for approval by the Council of Ministers. The cabinet examined a draft bill defining the general rules relating to online transactions with a view to establishing a unified national framework to validate online signature. The cabinet followed as well a presentation pertaining to the outcomes of the IATF held in Algiers, in addition to a series of measures intended to ensure a better economic and commercial continental integration. And finally, the government reviewed a roadmap to develop micro-enterprises with the support of the National Agency for Management and Microloans, a move meant to create permanent jobs and facilitate releasing the appropriate financial package. Algeria and the International Center for Migration Policy Development launched a partnership this Wednesday to strengthen migration management. At the ceremony, the Inter-Minister stressed Algeria's commitment to international efforts, highlighting the Convention relating to human rights and migration's dignity. And migrants' dignity. Najahtia has the details.
Algeria, positioned at the crossroads of Africa and Europe, has launched a partnership with the International Center for Migration Policy Development, aiming to boost its migration governance capacities. This initiative comes as an international migration surges worldwide, fueled by globalization, economic disparities, conflicts, climate change, and the pursuit of better opportunities.
عملت الجزائر تحت القيادة الرشيدة لسيد
Aware of the challenges and risks it faces, Algeria, under the leadership of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has adopted a methodical and objective vision. This approach relies on a comprehensive strategy within the framework of migration policy, taking into account both humanitarian and security dimensions. Its aim is to protect human rights while ensuring security and stability. Algeria has placed the training of specialized professionals at the heart of its migration governance program, selecting Tlemcen and Oran as key centers to build national expertise, anchored by its strategic position between Africa and Europe. And by that, the country underscores its commitment to international efforts through several ratified conventions, particularly those upholding human rights and the dignity of migrants.
Algeria is a wonderful partner for ICMPD. We wanted to start to look what are the needs in Algeria, just to bring them the right expertise and the right trainings for border guards to deal with irregular migration in the right way. So this is why we started a project that is financed by the Netherlands, by Denmark and by Switzerland, to bring people in the border guards from Algeria to training centers and to start with European style of how to deal with irregular migration.
Algeria plays a pivotal role as a regional actor, and this initiative reflects your readiness to engage in serious solution-oriented cooperation. The issue of migration, and in particular irregular migration and displacement, is a complex and pressing challenge for all of us. No country can face these challenges alone. They are by nature transboundary, and solving them requires partnership, trust, and collective political will. That's why this event is much more than the launch of a technical cooperation project. It represents a deepening political partnership between Denmark and Algeria, and more broadly between Algeria and the European Union.
It's very important to have this cooperation with Algeria and other partners like ICMPD and Denmark and Switzerland to find, because we face the same challenges on irregular migration, and we should train our partners, and we want to build up a long-term cooperation to mutually understand and learn from each other how we can tackle irregular migration.
Through mobilizing substantial human, financial and material resources, Algeria ensures the care and dignity of migrants in irregular situations while sharing its expertise with partners worldwide. Emphasizing that migration is a global challenge, the country continues to strengthen international cooperation and place the humanitarian dimension at the core of its approach.
To another story now, the Hydrocarbons and Mines Minister Mohamed Aqab took part via the video conference in the 62nd session of the Joint Ministerial Monitoring Committee, a key OPEC Plus body tasked with voluntary production adjustments and recommendations to preserve the stability of the global oil markets. The committee indicated that the majority of the countries signing the declaration complied with the production commitments during July and August, ensuring thereby the oil market's stability. Algeria's startup delegation in San Francisco met with foreign experts to tackle challenges, sharpen investor appeal and explore pathways for breaking into global markets. Coverage by Sid Ahmed Saboun, taken up by Melissa Lila-Balaman.
Addressing challenges, raising ambitions, and adapting the business environment to investor expectations were at the center of discussions between Algeria's startup delegation and foreign experts in San Francisco.
My goal is to help them see things from an investor's perspective, how managers evaluate them. Once they understand that, they know what they're negotiating for and what they're asking.
I think it would absolutely work in an Algerian environment, especially because it's developing very quickly and it's in a very exciting state.
The visit to Silicon Valley's leading accelerators was a mix of excitement, responsibility, and forward-looking vision for these young entrepreneurs.
And those are pretty standard terms that we make. It's usually 100.
I am very impressed with the quality and the entrepreneurial drive of these entrepreneurs. Specifically, what makes me hopeful is the go-to-market focus of Algerian startups.
Workshops and meetings keep coming, but they all converge on one goal: building a business ecosystem in Algeria that meets global standards. Among key stops for the delegation in San Francisco was the Alchemist Accelerator, where discussions focused on the conditions startups must meet to break into and invest in the US market.
In a moving atmosphere, Algerian artists and intellectuals gathered on Wednesday to pay tribute to late artist Fawzi Saishi, known as Ramimez, who passed away on Monday in Paris. The event took place at the Algerian Culture Center in Paris with the presence of prominent figures including Yasmina Khadra, Wasini Al-Araj, Marzaq Alwash and Amal Wahbi, among other artists who highlighted his rich career. The late will be buried in his mother country, Algeria. To Allah we belong, and to him we shall return. To the weekly report of the PNA, which carried out several operations denoting vigilance, professionalism and readiness throughout the national territory. As part of combating terrorism, PNA units eliminated 6 terrorists in Bissa province belonging to the 5th military region and restored different weapons and ammunition in their possession. Other detachments arrested 9 elements backing terrorist groups in different operations conducted throughout the country. As for fighting organized crime and drug trafficking, PNA detachments intercepted, in coordination with the different security services, 26 drug traffickers and thwarted attempts to introduce 8 quintals and 53 kilograms of processed cannabis hailing from the Moroccan borders, in addition to an important quantity of psychotropic tablets. In Tamaras, Burj Baji Mukhtar, Ain Salah, Ain Gizam, Janet and Elysee PNA units arrested 529 individuals, seized 23 vehicles and other equipment used in illegal gold panning operations. Similarly, 17 individuals were arrested possessing weapons, fuel, tobacco and other foodstuff destined for speculation and smuggling. And finally, coastal guards foiled attempts of illegal migration, rescued 514 individuals using dignities, and 671 illegal migrants of different nationalities were arrested. You are still watching Canal Algérie. Coming up in our news, the Annaba Mediterranean Film Festival wind-ups with a remarkable distinction of Algiers claiming several awards. Welcome back to our news, to international news. Now Morocco is gripped by a new wave of unrest in Oujda and beyond. Peaceful protests demanding dignity and an end to corruption have been met with batons, mass arrests and deadly force from the Makhzen. Melissa Lila Belaman reports.
In Oujda, what began as peaceful protests turned into bloodshed when the Makhzen military stormed the crowd. Grisly scenes of blind repression, now a grim routine in Morocco, where police violence has become the standard response to public protest. Screams, panic, bodies slammed to the ground. Moroccans endured one of their worst nights as security forces used overwhelming force. Protests are multiplying across Moroccan cities, Ait Amira, Khnifra, Agadir, Al Husayma, Marrakesh, where citizens demand healthcare, education, jobs, dignity, and relief from corruption and inflation. The Makhzen responded with blows and roundups. The violence has sparked outrage among Moroccan human rights groups. They condemned the assault on peaceful protesters and held the Makhzen responsible for deepening social collapse and violations of constitutional rights. Yet, repression has not emptied the streets. Siren calls grow louder. Young people keep marching, determined to make themselves heard.
Still with the same file as the Moroccan government prepares to host the African Cup of Nations, and the World Cup protests are sweeping its cities with demands for more urgent, that are healthcare, education, jobs, anti-corruption measures, and above all, dignity. Let's hear more from Najah Tiyar.
Colossal projects are being launched as Morocco prepares to host the 2030 World Cup. Yet behind the gleaming banners and rising stadiums, the country faces a stark reality of hardship and neglect, where basic needs, jobs, healthcare and dignity remain unfulfilled for much of the population. The most hit are the young people, since the unemployment stands at more than 14% nationally, but among university graduates it's even worse, where over 60% are unable to find work. The poverty also is spreading, especially in rural areas where 72% of people are in precarious situations, a rate 4 times higher than in cities, and families now endure daily struggles, irregular drinking water supply, 600 cubic meters per person annually, which is below the UN's 1,000 cubic meter scarcity line. In addition to limited electricity and services and widespread housing insecurity, with over 50,000 families living in slums with growing difficulty in affording basic food. As for the public health care, it is crumbling. Morocco counts only 8 doctors per 10,000 people, which is half the global average. Hospitals are under-equipped, staff are overstretched, and emergency care is lacking, resulting in tragedies, and the latest one being 8 pregnant women dying in a public hospital in Agadir, laid bare the system's most critical failures. Education is another collapsing pillar. Each year, around 3,300,000 students drop out, largely due to the inadequate infrastructure and the shortage of teachers. Yet billions of dirhams are being poured into stadiums and facilities for the CAF of Nations Cup and the World Cup, funds that could build thousands of schools and hundreds of hospitals. The contrast between international prestige and daily reality is stark, and for many Moroccans, true victory will not be measured in stadium cheers, but to have adequate health care, quality education, steady employment, and decent housing.
Najahtia reporting on deficits in Morocco. The central conflict in Morocco persists, with youth that is not asking for permission to reshape its reality after an unprecedented unemployment rate recorded in the region. This generation decided to take matter into its own hands, demanding their seat at the decision-making table. Let's hear more with Mela Boubacar.
Viral images taken over social media of Moroccans in turmoil after various peaceful protests took a violent turn with law enforcement last Tuesday. With a tremendous youth gathering, no efforts were spared to speak of what truly matters. Screaming, shouting, hoping their voices will be heard through their banners that were actively criticizing the poor government prioritization, stating, "We can see the stadiums, but where are the hospitals?" referring to the organization of the upcoming African Cup of Nations and the 2030 World Cup. A significant budget allocated by Morocco for both events, estimated between 5 to 6 billion US. About 50 to 60 million dirhams will be spent on the 30 matches taking place in 6 different cities of the kingdom, which represents a stupendous investment given that the healthcare facilities severely lack resources to help the crowd that can no longer provide for itself. Facing a public healthcare system in crisis and a private sector reserved for the most fortunate, the youth couldn't bear the sight of its own government injecting millions in sport events and stadiums, knowing that they, as graduates, have no prospect of living with dignity. So the question now remains, in the light of the recent unfortunate events, can Morocco handle the situation and ultimately host any African or international sporting event?
That's the question. From Morocco to the Middle East, the genocidal war goes on in Gaza with more than 20 martyrs overnight in different strikes targeting the Palestinian enclave, increasing the death toll since the outbreak of this devastating war to more than 66,000 people. In the meantime, the Gaza flotilla continues its way towards the battered town despite the Zionist intimidation maneuvers, taking all the precaution measures to avoid attacks despite its pure humanitarian mission meant to alleviate the untold suffering of the Gazans. Back to Algeria, the 5th Mediterranean Film Festival in Annaba wound up with Algerian filmmakers winning several awards, confirming their strong presence in cinema. More indications with Bisma Far.
Gentlemen, welcome to the closing ceremony of the 5th Annaba Mediterranean Film Festival.
Algerian filmmakers stood out with several awards, confirming their strong presence in this key event of the 7th art.
I thank the jury for its recognition of the subject and the cinematography of the film. I would also like to thank them for not condemning or judging the act of the father, who is just a fictional character. I am very proud.
Voilà, je suis très fier
This trophy will remain engraved in my memory because it's my first short film, my first participation in cinema, with zero funding, but a lot of passion. I dedicate this award to my dear mother and wife who supported me throughout my career and my life. This moment is not an end, but the beginning of a path that I hope will be even greater.
Salim Kshiwish was awarded Best Actor for his performance in the feature film Binubin, Elsewhere the Border by Mohamed Al-Khadartati.
Tonight I received the Best Actor award in Annaba. I am very proud because my roots are Algerian, my blood is Algerian. I dedicate this to the Algerian people and to the Palestinian people who share the same struggle we have also endured.
The prize for the Best Feature Film went to Turkish director Mohamed Ali. The documentary Confession from the Word by Daniel Jaber claimed the Best Documentary Award. In the industry section, Palestinian filmmaker Wasim Khair was awarded development support for his project -40, a Palestinian-Algerian co-production.
With cinema, we come to the end of our news bulletin. Tomorrow, another day, other news. Keep tuning to our channel. Take care. Bye-bye for now.